Hi, I'm your host, Anand J. Sukadia, and this is the Limitless One podcast. Join me on this journey as I interview the most inspirational souls who are tapping into their limitless blueprint on a mental, physical, and spiritual level to thrive in uncertain times. If you feel you are so much more than just this body, just this life, and want to tap into your limitless potential, you're in the right place. Here we go, starseeds. If there was a molecule that gave you access to your truest and highest self, that dissolved all the illusions you've created for your current reality, and the technology to directly communicate with God, would you want to take this compound? What if this molecule is already produced within your own body in trace amounts every day? Today, we are diving deep into the spirit molecule, dimethyltryptamine, or more commonly known as DMT, with Adam Butler, the author of Butler's DMT Field Guide. We discuss the nature of reality, the different dimensions he's accessed, God, transcendence, the Monroe Institute, and finding your purpose. Adam Butler is a psychedelic philosopher and passionate DMT psychonaut, focusing in on mental health, neuroplasticity, self-exploration, and the extreme limits of human potential and ability. Combining an academically trained intellect, empathetic heart, and life-hardening experiences, Adam has found his niche in helping others overcome the fear associated with PTSD, depression, sexual repression, and addiction. By incorporating psychedelic compounds with deep meditation, lucid dreaming, and tantric practices, he has changed from being an overworked, overweight, stressed out asshole into a balanced, healthy, sober friend and mentor to many. Adam Butler, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I think we have a lot in common to discuss.
For sure, man. I've been getting into your book recently, and it's absolutely incredible. It's called Butler DMT Field Guide, or Butler's DMT Field Guide.
Yes, it is. And that's opened up a whole new world to me, including, podcasts like this. And yeah, it's a book that I never thought that I'd be writing about, a life that I never thought I'd be living and now talking about. But yeah, I mean, ultimately that's probably how our paths got initially crossed.
For sure. I'm a big studier, researcher, and also experiencer of DMT. So yeah, absolutely would, love to get into your story. But before we begin, I just wanted to ask, what does living a limitless life mean to you, Adam?
Oh wow, right off the jump, huh? Some
We
some
don't fuck
deep ones.
around.
Um, so I think it's profound but simple. And I think to become limitless or truly understand the power of that word and to then live it is I think you first have to understand and know yourself and take the time to know yourself. That, in my understanding of myself as and other people, leads to learning how to love yourself. And then once you love yourself, you're able to tap into just a whole new world of love and gratitude and connection. And you start, just like we were saying before recording, you start bringing in a group of people to help you get there. And um, I think limitless is a mentality and a knowing that you can manifest and truly create the life that you want. And I live that every day. So to me, it's not a catchy slogan or a nice name of a podcast. It really is how I live because I've now been experiencing and practicing it for 3 years now, and it's awesome. It feels so good. It really
Beautiful. I,
does.
I love it. That's the common thread. I really tell you. So everyone I talk to that, I feel so connected with is first it's the journey of finding yourself. Because a lot of times, people who go down this path of spirituality and inward thinking, yeah, there's like maybe we feel that there's something missing initially. Once we find ourselves and truly become comfortable in ourselves and then really start shining our light, then we start falling in love with ourselves. And it's not coming from an ego place, it's coming from a place of, hey, we all come from the divine. So why would the divine make anything that should not love themselves and love others, right? Because if we can't love ourselves, we can't love other people. And then it's in just sharing that. So thank you for telling us about that because it just reinforces everything that this podcast is all about.
Yeah, it's getting rid of, excuse me, that proverbial plaque that
Mhm.
society puts on us. And, just learning a little bit about your story. We talked about some of your prior guests. It seems, and I just turned 44 years old, so I had kind of that midlife proverbial crisis. But I think if you have this many years on the planet, my story isn't necessarily unique when you say life and just piles its stuff on you. But you use the word, shining the light. And I think that societal plaque is a twofold detrimental thing where it not only, it doesn't allow you to shine your inner light and to show your unique story and to express yourself creatively, artistically, lovingly. Um, but then it also doesn't allow the radiant light and beauty and love of that universal source, whatever you want to call it. Um, but it doesn't allow that to recharge you and enrich you either. And as soon as you get rid of that plaque, and for me, it was DMT that blasted that plaque off. And the second that happened, I realized, and not that everything in my life was solved. If anything, now a spotlight was shown just on all the bullshit that I needed to clean up. But once that plaque was removed and I could be my authentic self, um, it's been so liberating. And maybe this is a perfect time to make that disclosure. It worked for you and it worked for a couple of our mutual friends, but I don't think psychedelics are necessarily for everybody. DMT is definitely not for everybody. There are other ways of kind of, removing that plaque or removing the veil, excuse me, whether it be meditation, whether it be prayer, there's other ways, but whatever method that you need to do to get there. I mentioned just coming back from Monroe Institute. They have technologies there that really help you get into that mind space as well. But it's not what a lot of society is into right now, which is alcohol and prescription pills and just masking it and lying to themselves. And it sounds like it brought you to the edge, just like it brought me to the edge, and it's just not. As opposed to now being so joyful and content with who we are, um, with all of the troubles that we still have, but
For
puts everything in
sure.
perspective.
Yeah, such an important point. There's so many methods or so many roads to that lead to the that same place and technologies that we can use. And obviously DMT is one, mushrooms is another one, meditation, Monroe Institute, Joe Dispenza retreats. There are so many, right? And we just are looking for, the one that resonates best with us. So you're absolutely right. It's, psychedelics are not for everyone. I definitely wouldn't recommend it for anyone. So if anyone's listening is inspired by this, please, tap into your inner self because, we're not suggesting anything and we're not promoting any particular way or method for you to, seek your own enlightenment. We're just sharing our journeys.
And if I could though, to add to that point, uh, I think that the conclusion, and I actually just wrote, I was gonna say a cool paper. I think it's a cool paper. The one that I sent you about the kind of crossroads of DMT and the Monroe Institute HemiSync technology. And my conclusion is that you don't need DMT or strong psychedelic drugs or crazy new technology to get you to these ascended states of altered or higher consciousness. And just like your last guest or a couple of guests ago, Amish was saying, through his study of ancient plant-based medicines, you're getting to that same place. So um, it's really just taking the time for yourself and out of everybody's busy day and out of their busy life and just trying to figure out who you really are. And for some people, you need the ayahuasca retreat, or in my case, I needed the DMT blast. But there are other ways of finding that. Yoga, perfect example. Take time to do that and really get into deep breathing meditations, and you'll find the bliss that we're all looking for or talking about.
Yeah, 100%. So let's get into your background and your story. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to this place?
Very unique story with a lot of twists and turns. And I guess really the relevant part of our conversation is my life kind of before DMT and after DMT. And I mentioned this in my book about kind of my upbringing because I think it's important to show um, the fact that I was kind of raised with a silver spoon in my mouth, that I did have every possible advantage, excuse me, as a rich white kid living in New England. My grandfather gave me a bunch of money to invest in businesses when I was young. I had awesome parents, great grandparents. I was into real estate investing. I owned a bunch of properties. And I mention this only because my downfall and the destruction of everything in my life was all to my doing and my making. This isn't like, woe is me, the world kicked me down, or I can't believe these women broke my heart, or not at all. And I mention these things because it's also important to know that I've had a lot of the material successes that some people think will make them happy. Maybe not to the level of the oceanfront houses with Ferraris, like, like your other buddy, but really to the point where I was making really good money and had everything on paper. Um, and I lost it all due to self-destruction. But it really was psychedelics and started with shrooms, but shrooms and DMT really are what altered the course and trajectory of my life, and is ultimately why I wrote that book, and is why now I'm kind of dedicating, really the rest of my life to trying to share this message. But um, the sum of it was I had about 3 or 4 major events happen over a course of about a year and a half that just really got me to the point where I was on the edge. I was really in a dark place. Quite frankly, I was suicidal, and it wasn't like I had a bad day or two or a bad week or two. I gave this a lot of thought about if I wanted to stay on this planet or not. And um, I started getting into shrooms because I was hearing about the therapeutic value, and I was reading and doing the research, understanding that, hey, this maybe could help me. And I started pushing it, doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grams. I was pushing it pretty deep, and I was really getting good value. I was really starting to hold up that proverbial mirror to myself, where I couldn't lie like I was doing to my therapist or to my friends, or uh, but I didn't have that full shakeout or that full like life-changing epiphany. And that's when I was exposed to DMT. And a friend of mine, a brother of mine, said that, he had some for me, and I had access to it if I wanted to. And he knew, really, again, kind of the spot that I was in. But prior to moving forward with it, I did as much research as I could. So I took several months reading the books or the research. I would say starting with Rick Strassman's A Spirit Molecule. That's probably the go-to. Um,
Yeah, that was my entryway into learning about this, along with Joe Rogan as well.
Yeah, and th those two are the kind of the good intros, and then you start expanding out. And I immediately had the respect and reverence for the molecule. I understood, why I thought I understood why these people were calling it the spirit molecule, and I really wanted to understand kind of what they were experiencing, because that's what I needed to really save my life. And that day, so like I said, it took several months of doing as much research as I could, and then that day is one that I say really changed my life. And I mentioned in my book how I took about 50 hits that first day, which I don't recommend really anybody doing. But I was really kind of like, listen, I gotta get this done, and I gotta get this out. Um, and I'll die if, trying if I don't. But that was spaced out over about 6, 7 sessions, and each session was 6, 7 hits. And at the end of it all, I had the moment that I needed, which was that DNA download, that upgrade, that whatever breakthrough where you're connecting with God's source energy, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, it changed my entire life. And I can get into, if you'd like, the progression of those hits and kind of what happened. But yeah, that day was about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And since that day, I've truly been the most blissful, happy, content, absolutely connected that I've ever been. That being said, I'm broke. I have none of the material wealth. I'm basically homeless. I'm still living in my parents' basement. I'm working for $20 an hour when I used to make $1,000 a day. I have a lot of rebuilding that I need to go through, but without a doubt in my mind, I know that I'm on the path that I need to be on now. So
That's
yeah.
that's beautiful, man. Let's just rewind, because I truly believe I'm a follower of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and he talks about the quality of your thoughts are going to determine the quality of your life and what shows in the 3D realm. So before getting into the DMT, that blast off that you had that really transformed your life, what were the conversations that you were having in your own mind about your life and yourself, just to get, I guess, a comparison as to what it's going on right now.
Perfect question and perfect kind of segue. So Joe Dispenza's, philosophy of theory, not even theory, is proven method of, the power of brain and heart coherence and how that really does affect your physiology. So I actually read his book Becoming Supernatural before doing DMT, and reading his book actually was part of my research, because he goes into how one, it talks about endogenous DMT, so it is naturally produced in your own body, and the importance of being in that coherent state where you're really mindful of what your intentions are. So um, it was a combination of, like, so you're asking, what was my mental state? I was overweight, depressed, alcoholic, belligerent, narcissistic, all of the most horrible things, they were there. But I also had that voice in me saying, "You are beautiful. You are a facet of God. You are light. You just need to somehow figure this all out." So I knew I always had this internal conflict, where I knew my true self wasn't really being shown to the world. So. And I guess that's why I leaned into plant-based medicines and or DMT fell into my lap. And that kind of seems to be a common story too, is that somehow, some way DMT finds people when they need it and how they need it. And then it finds and fills that psychological or crack in their psyche that only they know is there. But yeah, so I knew that I needed fixing, and I knew that it wasn't going to come from prescription pills or alcohol or just continuing to make money or sweep it under the rug. So there was a sense of seeking.
Yeah, definitely. And that, that inner voice, whether you want to call it the higher self or, an angel telling you that you are whole, you just need to find yourself again. That same situation happened to me. I always knew that there was a bit of greatness in me, and I can find that love within myself. But yeah, I just prior to my spiritual awakening, I just felt like I wasn't enough. I felt I wasn't loved, and all the stories, but I just knew, keep moving forward on this path. You're going to find it. You're going to find it. It's there for you. And just going back to, like, so everybody comes to that place in their life where they're like, have a breaking point of like, okay, what am I doing here? And there's so many different paths to go, right? So like alcohol is one path, and I think a lot of people try to medicate themselves. I think that's the intention, is to, because they're so much pain, they do medicine, or sorry, alcohol, or they go into heroin, or really destructive patterns. And then there's also these rehabilitative patterns and finding the divine in you. So DMT obviously was that catalyst for you. So before we go forward, just for anyone who hasn't really, explored what this is, can you tell us what DMT is specifically?
So DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine. So it's a ubiquitous molecule that my understanding is found basically throughout all of nature. It's in thousands and thousands of plants, where it's almost more common to find it than not find it. My understanding, it's in all mammals, and it's a chemical that really can induce that connection to God and source that I think we're all looking for. But it's the thing that really got me attracted to it, and I think why Rick Strassman was gravitated to do his research, was the fact that it is endogenous. So meaning, once again, that it is produced naturally in your own body. So because of that, there's a couple of things. It is metabolized very, very quickly. So when you smoke DMT, it lasts 6, 7, 8 minutes, as opposed to, if you drink it in ayahuasca form, or if you're doing shrooms or LSD, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. Um, so the beauty of DMT is that you can really have these deep, profound psychedelic experiences, come out of it, be able to integrate the lessons you've learned, and then kind of carry on with your day. Or like I did that first day, go into it again and really get, I felt as though I got years and years of therapeutic value in a matter of an hour and a half. Um, but the fact that you can also induce it and pulse it through natural breathing and meditation, that to me also gave me more confidence that this is a molecule that I can explore further, where it's not like this poisoning sensation like shrooms or LSD, where you know that, oh shit, this is coming on and you've got to kind of prepare for it. Where DMT, and I mention this often about that first hit. So that first day really was a really profound experience, going through the first hit to that last kind of breakthrough session. But that first hit was really unique in the fact that it felt very natural and innate. Now, instantly, your senses go completely berserk, and you're seeing and sensing all of these weird things, but it was just very natural feeling. There was this sensation in the back of my nasal cavity that was just normal. It tasted normal. And now that I've done DMT as many times as I have, when I do these breathing meditations and I get that sensation again, you clearly taste DMT running down the back of your throat. Like, it is very, very distinctly that. Um, so that's something that I think is important when we distinguish DMT from other psychedelics. And then the fact too, and I have chapters in my book, or a chapter in my book, about recipes. And again, not condoning anybody to do anything illegal, but I think it's important that these these DMT and ayahuasca is a simple extraction process where you truly are just taking them out of a bark. I mean, you can buy it legally and it looks like mulch. And I think it's important for people to know that they can provide their own medicine, their own natural plant-based Mother Earth, remedies and not have to depend on pharmaceutical companies and shit like that, where it's just the whole process to me was something that was very appealing to me. And now, being into it for as long as I've had it and now trying to share my story, but also gathering other stories from other people, just the profound power of this molecule is just it surprises me every day.
Yeah, it's
Take
really
it with heed, like don't just if it will blow up your foundational structures of life. But if you need
absolutely.
that, then yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, right? Is because we only know what we know, and our ego tries to contain us into an identity. And this is an opportunity when somebody either produces it endogenously or takes a out for taking a DMT hit or something like that. It allows you to sidestep your identity and your ego to just observe it and see where you're at, right? So it's a nice way to kind of step outside of who you think you are because often it's a bunch of bullshit and it's like these thoughts that you have every single day, you're reinforcing your identity over and over and over and over. So how do you make those changes without really seeing a true reflection of what you are, without this cloudy mirror that you're facing?
And most people can't hear it from other people. I know if somebody else would have told me all the negative things about me, and again, I've put them all in their proper place. I've used them for growth. But if anybody were to go through down that list of all the nasty attributes that I used to possess, I would have been very defensive, and I would have listed all the positive things. Well, look at all the money I've made. Look at all of the success that I've had. Where you can't lie to yourself when you're on psychedelics and you're looking at yourself heartfeltly in the mirror. And that can be difficult for a lot of people. And when people talk about having like a proverbial bad trip, um, I don't know. I've never had the trips where I'm being like chased by demons or devils like I'm in a horror movie. The difficult trips or the quote unquote bad trips are the ones where you're hearing information that you don't necessarily want to hear. But that's exactly that's the power of psychedelics. And you mentioned about like the voices in your head and where do you put them in proper perspective? And I think psychedelics, or even just taking the time to go within, allow you to really put those voices in the proper perspective. And I know with me, I had a lot of the negative ones constantly screaming in my ear, go ahead, go drink. Tell this guy you're gonna kill him. Be belligerent. Be like all of these nasty things. And I was never able to put those voices in their proper context. And with psychedelics, it really allowed me to say, not, hey, shut up, go away, don't ever express yourself, or, I don't want to worry about the trauma or the past negative experiences. It was, no, let them all have their say, bring them all to the table, but then put them in the proper perspective and not let them control my life anymore. And that was really important too, because it's not dissolve your ego, don't have any of the negative thoughts. I don't think that's the right way of looking at it because that'll come and kick you in the ass again in the future. I think it's know yourself holistically, understand the darker attributes as well as the lighter ones, but then put them in their perspective. And so when I think people have that bad trip, it's facing the shittier aspects of yourself. It's facing the lies that you've been telling to other people and to yourself. But the beauty of coming on the other side of that, which is, I think, the common smile that you and I have, that this group of people that we're talking about that are trying to raise the consciousness of humanity and kind of what's this next step is that it's so refreshing to know once you stop lying to yourself, because then you stop lying to everybody else, you stop lying to society, like you become comfortable in your own skin. It just life becomes so much easier to go through because you're not fabricating this bullshit story. You're not worrying about making sure that the stories jive. It's just you live contently and naturally aligned with your true calling, which is not skewed by any other person. And once you're aligned with that, everything else just kind of falls into play. There is no differentiation between work and play. Like there is no who cares if it's weekday or weekend. It's like you really do get to be here in the now. And um, no, if I could finish that tirade, that at the end of that 50 hit session on that first day, and everybody would have their own kind of breakthrough, profound epiphany, so to speak. But mine really was I was trying to put everything in proper perspective from my past, which had all these beautiful aspects, but clearly had blown up and caught on fire. But then what am I going to do in the future and how do I get out of all of it? And I was trying to really, I was so separated between the past and the future that I wasn't currently in the present now. And that DMT session at the end of it was like, all right, hey, you want to connect all these dots? Yeah, they're connected. And then those shattered, and then a million more. And then, hey, let's connect those, and those shattered, and then a trillion more. And then the message was the point isn't to connect the dots. It's to enjoy the space between the dots. It's to enjoy, the beat, but the space between the beat. It's to really just be here now. And with that, I was able to then enjoy every sip of coffee, enjoy every bite of ice cream, enjoy every time I make love to a beautiful woman, enjoy looking at pictures of kids, of people that I don't even know all that well, where it's like, I look at that little dude and I just like instantly start laughing and smiling. And that's that's what I think is the real power of coming out of all of this is that you become authentically you, and then that becomes just really easy to navigate this world. In a world full of bullshit and societal pressures and stresses and well, it's like be yourself.
That's
I know
so
that was a
beautiful.
big rant, but
Wow,
that's
man.
important.
That's powerful because yeah, we sometimes we get inundated so much in the analytical process of thinking about the past and thinking about this person and this person hurt me or, I hurt this person. It's like there's so much weight that we're carrying on. And to live with that level of freedom and be like, okay, that stuff, everything just happened and it is what it is, being okay with it. And then knowing that, yeah, you can at any moment you can shift your reality and not hold on to all this stuff that is weighing you down because it's at the end of the day, how many of us live in the past? We're thinking about the same things that we did in the past and we're just bringing it forward to the future. So it's like, how do you even have the mental capacity or the energetic flow in your body to now start attracting the things that you want when all you're doing is thinking about previous shit that has gone wrong?
Instead of sitting there across the dinner table looking at how beautiful your wife is, or how amazing your kids are, or appreciating the fact that you have a beautiful home, or that you have your health, that you're not in a hospital. There's so much that can be appreciated if you're sitting in a bubble of gratitude as opposed to a bubble of stress and anxiety. And that really is the biggest benefit out of this is the physiological response or the physiological state of being that your body naturally is in, where now I know very clearly when I have any stress indicators if my mind or my body is off. And I listen to that now, where, like we mentioned before, so many people just blind those stress signals or cover them up or mask them, or like I said, with pills or alcohol, where now the slightest incoherence of my heart or mind, or the slightest agitation of my physical body, I listen to that sign right away. I appreciate it. I give thanks for the sign, and then I try to do the best I can to remedy it. And that's how you live a happy, healthy lifestyle. That's how you beat diseases. It's your body works in coordination with your intentions. And a lot of people are just, hey, let me push this body and use it like a machine, and it backfires on you. But yeah, to be present in every moment, especially uh with having a new kid, or like in my case, I feel like because I did almost take my life. This really is my second chance. Every day I have, I'm excited for everything, and I'm not looking for any certain outcome. I'm not looking for any type of new money or anything. Like I really just float through each day looking for what this experience is going to bring with no preconceived notion of how it should pan out, as opposed to where I used to be so pent up and always trying to push my own way. And that doesn't mean don't have goals or don't have, desires that you want to see to come to fruition, but it's just have faith that the universe will also show you a path that may be better than what you originally thought. And that was something that took a little bit of my ego to get pushed back a little bit to be like, maybe what you think isn't always the best, and to let that pan out now.
Yeah,
Again,
and
to the
letting
betterment of me.
letting the universe create possibilities that maybe, you didn't think of, right? So if you leave the universe open to, okay, I would love magic to enter my life every single day and I'm going to live with that expectation, then you'd be amazed if you're aware of it and you see all the beautiful synchronicities that are happening every single day at every moment, all the opportunities that are flying by you, you can start living in that magic and then now you're creating momentum because hey, if you're living with an expectation, okay, this needs to happen. I need to make $1,000 today. If I don't, then what are you doing? You're setting yourself up for failure when, when you're expecting that particular thing. And then it snowballs itself. So when you're just open to whatever's going to happen, I'm going to live in my heart. I'm going to live with beauty in my life. I'm going to appreciate all the little things. And, when you start living that way, life becomes very magical, very happy, and there's always amazing things that are happening constantly to you.
And from the mundane to the most magical of events, whether you're shopping at the market or you're going, sitting on the coast on vacation, you really do. There's no separation really of those moments. They're all magical. They're all beautiful, and there is something to be absorbed in each one of those moments. And it's a great way to walk through life because then you start seeing those synchronicities and you start seeing those guideposts on your life that tell you where to go, but also where not to go. And you learn to follow your intuition and gut, and it really becomes a fun, joyous life. And I want to preface that with all of the financial success that I had before and all the abundance. I don't have any of that now. So it's not like I'm sitting on this place of like, oh yeah, it's easy for him to say. Um, I'm in the struggles now that a lot of people are in, and I think it's probably more important to have the right perspective because you have to come home and be the example that you want to be for the family and for your community. Be that person that sings and whistles and dances and skips and acts like a little kid. Be that guy that goes and hugs his other guy friend and tells him, it's okay, man. I love you, brother. Like that's what we need to be sharing. And yeah, like however that big consciousness shift has to happen for our society, whether it be DMT or, like I said, Monroe Institute, deep meditation, darkness retreats, something. I think there's this pivotal shift that's happening in society, and I don't know if it'll necessarily happen like in our lifetime, but certainly status quo can't stay the same, right? So it's either going to deflect horribly bad or hopefully turn really, really good. And I'm hoping it turns really, really good, and it's going to be this consciousness shift of what myself has been talking about, and even several of your guests. And like I said, I've listened to a lot of your recent episodes, and it seems like everybody is coming to the same realization of stop being in this rat race that somebody told you to be in. It's like who? Like who? Don't listen to that. To they. Listen to yourself,
Yeah, and we
and
live
it'll
in
better the.
yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was just saying it'll better the world.
100%. Yeah, and we live in such an amazing time to be alive, right? Like when our parents, boomers, they didn't have any options. They had to pick a field, they had to work, just get a mortgage, get a house, and then raise their kids. They didn't have any time, especially my parents, they didn't have any time to think about what lifts their soul. We have the opportunity to have things like, DMT in our awareness now, and with the internet, learning, researching, finding all these things. And the generation below us, they live in a lot of them live in limitless possibility. They don't even question like, oh, I can make like $10 million in 1 year, like this, because that's their level of awareness, right? So like we're kind of in between where we're understanding the lessons of the baby boomers, understanding, okay, that wasn't necessarily the way to bring happiness into your life. Yeah, there was obviously many happy baby boomers, but and then try to find ourselves, living in this space, taking a whole like lifetime to find ourselves. That's, my case, seems like it's your case as well. And then now finding that light within us to then how to share that with the world. And it's I don't know, I tell you, it's like every day becomes an adventure. And I feel like I'm like a kid now. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, and like anything now that I see is like exciting to me, right? Just looking at my son is the most amazing thing in the world. And anything I'm doing in life, I'm always brought back to that present moment when I just look at him, or with my wife, or when I'm in a podcast with you. There's no place in the world I'd rather be right now than doing this podcast, having this conversation, and seeing the beauty in this moment. It's a beautiful way to live my life, and it's never been that way for the longest time. And once I started accepting living in those moments in between, living in that black space, right? Slowing down the mind, slowing down the body, and just living in the heart and combining, the mind and the heart. And that's a lot of what you did at the Monroe Institute. It's like that's really the gateway into divinity.
And we're in this great time where we have access to all this amazing information. We don't have to travel literally by camel or by horse and walk continent to continent to study in a mountain for 10 years. We can go to a Joe Dispenza retreat. We can go to the Monroe Institute. We can make our own DMT and blast off. Uh, I'm so grateful for being in this period of history where we have access to unlimited information. I'm 44 years old. So, when I was a teenager, we didn't have internet. Like I didn't even have a cell phone then. Where now you can get information, or you can get the answers to almost any question instantly. Uh, Access to books even. I mean, I read nonstop, and to know that 100 years ago or a couple hundred years ago, people didn't have access to books like that. And when you have the type of intellectual curiosity that I have and you have, and to know how grateful we are to be in this time period, to be able to absorb this information, to your point, it is a sense of childish excitement because you know that your desire to learn will never be satiated. There'll always be more information. And another kind of cool thing living in today's society is that science and research is proving these ancient techniques, are proving these ancient Indian, Vedic texts, are proving these Buddhist meditative monks that are going and humming and praying and vibrating. It's like, well, yeah, because they're vibrating at a resonance where everything is working together. The Monroe Institute, like I said, they use binaural beats and different frequencies in each ears to elicit certain um, responses in your body. Very similar to what people do in deep meditation. And a lot of that, I think, ultimately, and all this research seems to come down to endogenous DMT too. Like all of these states somehow naturally make your body kind of pulse this DMT. But we really are at an amazing time when we're so fortunate to know that there's no rabbit hole that we can't go down or that we can't experience. And now it's just a matter of what do we do with that information. And maybe, that's kind of the big picture thing like we were talking about before we started recording, where it's like, so now what? What's the point of all this? How do we integrate this into our personal lives, but then into society, where what is this next shift in human evolution? What do we do with this? And no, I don't have the answer. I certainly don't. And I have the humility to know that I'm just a small data point in it all. But I know that I went personally from my life of destruction and horribleness and depression and darkness and nastiness to full light, love, gratitude, connection. And it sounds so corny to be like, yeah, this kumbaya, hippy dippy, all is love shit. But I'm telling you that that is the answer. And I got to that point from a very different and windy path, but it's the same path that a lot of people come to. And once you're there at that same mountaintop looking down, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And uh, that's the collective energy that will bring us to the next level, whatever that may be.
Yeah, every one of us that's searching our souls, right? For you, 44 years. For me, I'm almost 44. I'm going to be 44 next month. But, we live a lifetime of collecting this data and then gathering it and then uploading it to the main consciousness server, right? So like we're all data points in this set of infinite knowledge. And once we finish these lives and we're all merging back into that, and then we realize, okay, whatever I did it was a major part of expansion of consciousness. So, everybody should be grateful for the opportunity to have this journey and then also to be part of that larger collective because yeah, we're all one. And, connecting with you, it's like this is our first conversation. I feel like, okay, I found a soul brother again. And, it's been happening, like I told you, every single day, every week, I'm finding some more people that are living that same path. And they're having a very unique journey, and it's not like we're all having the same exact experience, but everybody's bringing their little points, their little data sets, and kind of enlightening each other as to what that journey is all about. So I appreciate that.
And it really is a resonating vibrational energy. And it will it will resonate and vibrate with like energies and bodies. And that's really important because it's very clear when that dark, nasty energy walks in the room. And it's very clear when there's depression and heaviness and just shit feelings and emotions. And it's very clear when the opposite is. And uh, that energetic impression that you leave in a room, but I also think over a course of a lifetime, that karmic energy field or that resonant bubble that you walk around with is really, really important. And I think that's where you can have that domino effect of change where you become that happy source of energy and light. And I know I kind of joke that I must be nauseating and sickening to the guys that I work with. I work with three of the grown burly men doing landscaping, and I'm constantly picking up the bugs and the bees and looking at the butterflies and hey, look at this salamander and whistling and saying, hey, look at the mist, doing rainbow prisms, and it's like, but since I've been working with this, now they're doing the same thing. Now they're finding the bugs. Now they're taking a moment to smile. Now, like one customer came out and was joking about this other guy, how great his smile is. Now he never smiled until, and I feel like I can take credit for it, until for 2 years in a row, every day, I bust this guy's balls about how beautiful his smile is and how he needs to share it. And come on, man. And it's like that, that resonant energy will keep spreading. And I think now when he's sitting around his buddies, he's hopefully gonna be more of that happy positive than the like just hey, just sit there and don't do any don't share any energy. And it's really important. And
Yeah.
that's why you're again dedicating your life to showing people how to do this. And it's going to be different and subjective for each person. And I think that's a really important point, is that everybody's going to have their own path because everybody has their own bullshit and trauma and scars that they need to get over. Uh, but you're not going to find that answer from somebody else. That answer has to come from within. And maybe I kind of wanted to start our interview with this, but as I was looking through your website, um, as I'm nodding through everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is great. We have so much in common. But you have a quote, and if I may, it says, "You are the one you've been waiting for this whole time, and all the power you need to create the life of your dreams is within you, waiting to be unleashed." And that is such a powerful message. And I just got goosebumps reading it because imagine if everybody knew that, if everybody knew that they are a facet of God. And one of the questions that we were discussing prior, what is God? That's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's an energy source of vibration. It's what permeates everything. It's what allows consciousness in life to to impart itself. It's not a religious sect. It's not some man or woman in the sky. Um, it's who we are at our true essence. We are God. We are part of that God, and to know that makes you limitless. It really does, and that doesn't mean that you're not flawed, that you're not going to make mistakes. That all of that's all part of that too. Because that's part of the experience. That's part of the ebb and flow. And you need the contrast in life. You need the pain to appreciate the love. You need the dark to appreciate the light. I needed to be poor to appreciate just the riches that I had. And now when I have the riches again, man, it'll be so much more, appreciative of it all. But it all starts with really knowing that you are a divine spark and that you can be and who you are is exactly who you should be. Barring if you know you're not hurting anybody and not being a scumbag, um, like shine your unique light. If you're a writer, write. If you're an artist, create art. If you're a podcast, and just know that everything you need is already within you.
Yeah. We're all beautiful fractals of the infinite creator, right? And it's everyone's energetic imprint is essentially a QR code. So when I look at your QR code, I'm downloading, the world of knowledge that you've accumulated, and I'm the same way, and everyone else is the same way. When my baby's in the elevator, there's like these real stoic guys, like, on the elevator that don't smile, don't say hello. They look in my baby's eyes, and all of a sudden they're smiling. And me and
Yeah.
my wife see this every single day. We're like, this is incredible. It's we have the ability to raise each other up, every single one of us. But yeah,
Well,
like I
part of
wanted to,
that,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think an important point, part of that
Yeah.
recognition, I'm not going to try to say that
Recognition.
word. Yeah, that. Um, of your own divine source and how beautiful you are and how worthy you are of your own expression and how worthy you are of life and resonance of gratitude and all of that. When you truly feel that at your core, you project that on everybody else as well. So you know that everybody else has the worthiness of being able to express themselves. Everybody else has the worthiness of being able to come at it from their own perspective and that they're at their own uh, part of this journey and process, and that they may not have learned some of the same lessons that you have, but that ability to understand that the other person's point of view and perspective is just as valid and is just as worthy. When you finally know that yours is that valuable, you just naturally project it onto other people's, and it just allows for a more harmonious discourse to happen, especially like in politics. And I joke in my book about how I wish all politicians would go on an ayahuasca retreat or do shrooms or DMT, because it's just the humility, the empathy, the desire to try to understand the other side of you, I think is really needed in, you know, political dialogue right now. And it's just, there's no way that you treat other people like shit when you know how you want to be treated. And it's a powerful lesson.
Yeah, if you could look at everybody as if they are the mirror of you, and yeah, maybe they have a different story, but they're all just looking to be happy, to have love in their lives, and they're coming into life, and so are we with all of our, our pain points and all of the trauma that we've suffered with, and we're just all trying to do the best we can with the knowledge that we have. So, like you said, like everyone's perspective is what you perceive to be true is true. It's true for you. And how can I tell you your perception is wrong? How could you tell me my perception is wrong? We're just all trying to figure shit out. Nobody's got, the answer book until we maybe meet our creator. But we don't have. We're just trying to follow our highest self. And hopefully people are tapping into their highest self rather than listening to other people what they tell you should believe in, because there's a lot of that also in society where, there's a lot of cultish behavior on both sides of the political aisle and with religion and things like that. So my goal, my mission in life is for everybody to find that inner light within themselves and listen to your highest self as the number one voice rather than, the last voice. Following that intuition of yours, that's going to do more for you than any other person on this planet to tell you what to do.
Yeah, and diversity is a beautiful thing. Uniqueness is a beautiful thing. Express yourself authentically. Yeah, that's and with that perspective, there is no, you don't judge people on their race or color or their sex or their sexual orientation or their age or anything. It's like you appreciate all of that. Like I actually just got introduced to Harvard undergraduate psychedelics club. So it's these young, like 20-something-year-old kids, and I say kids with all due respect, they're gonna change the world. I mean, you don't get into Harvard just being a dummy. And I'm sitting there at one of their presentations, and I'm clearly the oldest guy in the back of the room, and I'm just shaking my head to be like, I'm so blessed and honored to be in a room full of these new novel thinkers, and their way of thinking is going to be way different from my upbringing and from my perspective, and to know that that's exactly why I'm there. I don't want to go to a room full of 40 middle-aged men who have had midlife crises. Like there's only so much I can learn from them. These are the generations that I want to learn from, and it is because of they're different from me. Their perspective is unique for me, and I know I can learn from them. That doesn't mean I need to agree. That doesn't mean I need to change my views to theirs. I just like being exposed to the different thoughts from a different person's lens. And that's really the message that we're both sharing too, is just people will get a lot more comfort if they just realize that the world wants to see them as their best selves, not them as second best somebody else. And then embrace that full on like a badass. Like whatever. Be the weird DMT guy who goes to Monroe and writes books and swears a lot. Like what if you don't like it, whatever. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you do like
Own
it,
it,
cool,
right?
I'll come
Own.
back on your podcast. Where it's like, but I know to the right people that will resonate, and then I'll find my tribe and I'll respect everybody else's tribe along the way. But I'm not going to try to fit in. I'm not going to try to be like, oh, I've got to make money again, or I've got to fit into this real estate gig again, or it's like, no, I'm gonna be happily Adam, and however that pans out, I'll live with that.
That's beautiful. I wanted to get back to the DMT realms because a lot of people, I read Strassman's books about the machine elves and many other, testimonials about it. But I want to, from your perspective, because you've traveled so much in there, not only just that first session, but, for the last 3 years. So tell us what you believe the DMT realm to be. Is it a different dimension? Is it within your own psyche? What do you think, where are you traveling to essentially?
That's a great question. And of all the people studying it, I think everybody. has the humility to be like, hey, this is a theory, I don't know.
Mhm.
I think the unique differentiation is that when you're on other psychedelics or even other altered states, so you're in a fever or whatever, you're scared because of you think you saw a ghost. You're typically experiencing the world through your five senses. So even if you're tripping out on shrooms, it's like, yeah, the wall is melting, but you're looking at that wall through your eyes, and yeah, you're seeing it melt, but like it's still, you're experiencing the physical world through your senses. Um, the DMT space is completely different. You're not sensing, like now, let me say that. Can you microdose DMT, and is there a range in effects? Absolutely. So, and I have a chapter about transcendental sex, art, and science, where you can actually use it to enrich some of these aspects of your life. But you can open your eyes and see the tapestry and see it move and see the colors around and stuff like that. But when you have that breakthrough session where you actually do get blasted into DMT space or that DMT realm, where you're not just in your room seeing extrasensory stuff. It is so profoundly different and unique than anything you've ever experienced. And this is where there's a big kind of like ontological discussion of like what this all means, because it doesn't appear to be fabricated from any one individual's mind. So at my 44 years old, growing up in New England with all of my background in history, there's no way I could possibly create the intricacy and complexity of these realms. To have that idea of mathematics and physics and movement and shapes, and there's no way that there's anything in my prior history that could construct anything that would be remotely similar to a DMT realm. And then like the crispness and the vividness of all of the edges and how it moves, it's way different from being drugged up on LSD or shrooms or sitting in like a VR space or an IMAX 3D cinema. We've got all of these sensory inputs. Yeah, those are great and really stimulating, but it's different from, oh shit, I'm in a different space. And that's kind of where there's exciting research now going on with the DMT extended state, where they're doing the intravenous drip, where they're trying to
Yeah,
get these people to be in there for a half hour,
hours.
2 hours,
Yeah.
because the similarities are really profound. Where you read trip reports and you read the interactions, and you mentioned like machine elves or jesters or entities, and these are Terrence McKenna and Joe Rogan terms. Uh, I think we all, well, not we all. Um, I've experienced all of those entities because it really is a like an ambiance and a flavor and a vibe when you go into this space. And there are different areas of that world or realm where there are very fun, gestury, amusement parky energies. And there's also very dark, authoritative, like, oh shit, we got to sit you down and teach you a lesson. There's feminine energies, some are sexual and really fun, some are more motherly, nurturing. Uh, the like all of these things are way different from a lucid dream, way different from a trip, way different from just a deep meditation. Like you really, way different from even, so my point of going to Monroe Institute was really to compare their elevated states. And, they claim to be able to get people to astral project and have out-of-body experiences and do remote viewing and everything. And I say claim, it works, it does happen. Like you really can feel the different energetic levels of your body do different things. But nothing like DMT space. Just it's its own place, and that's where there's a lot of interesting research going on by dedicated scientists in hardcore labs, whether it be like Imperial College. There's a like Zeus Zapato. I think he's in the Netherlands now. He's doing some great work in this field, and yeah, it's trying to put terms to like what is this space, because it's clearly it's there. And I guess a way for me to try to describe it too, and I mentioned how I feel DMT removes the veil. So it's it's not like you're being drugged up and dumbed. You're being increased and enriched. So your five senses, those five senses get dialed up to 1,000,000 when you're on DMT, but then you also have multiple other senses that come on. And I don't have a name for those. I don't think anybody does, but you clearly are able to interpret and absorb information from other wavelengths other than just sight, sound, things like that. So I think it's just a matter of when you do DMT, your body can vibrate and hum and resonate at higher, more refined levels of energy, and therefore you can receive different insights and different interactions, and that's what's happening in that space. Uh, what it is, how you like, I don't know. that's the mystery that I know I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to trying to figure out. But it's way different from any other psychedelic experience that I've done anyway.
Mhm. Are you Adam Butler, like having the same mind when you go into these places, or do you dissolve that whole, human body, human existence kind of thing, and you're a different being in there?
So that answer has a couple ways of going too. So I've experienced some really cool and profound experiences in that DMT space, where one of them was I did feel like so to mostly answer your question, yes, 98% of those experiences, it's me as, and I kind of call myself like Earth Adam 44, like when I do my prayers, like this current Earth Adam 44, yes. Um, it's me enjoying the DMT space, interacting with these entities. But there have been times where there was this one time where I felt as though I interacted with my future self. And it was a very clear comforting energy that yes, this was me, and I was coming back to kind of do a diagnostic check to be like, yeah, you're on, you're on course, everything's good. And that was a really weird one because it put a lot of things in perspective, including like fear of death and all of that shit. Um, but I have had very distinct feelings of living past lives as well. Maybe just a fun one, which was actually really cool. A couple weeks ago, I was with my girlfriend, and like I said, we use it as part of our intimate kind of routine. And I was instantly, I felt as though in like another body from like the 70s. And normally I go to really like odd, like extraterrestrial, like spacey type places. This was very clear, a motel and like a bowling alley, and I could
So like
remember
a
the carpet.
70s porn.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, and it was that's not anything that I'm into. I don't watch
Yeah.
movies like that. But I remember the handrails, I remember the carpet, and I remember clearly having sex with this woman who, was it my girlfriend's spirit from another age or but that was a very weird like, oh shit, why am I seeing all this clear, vivid motel kind of imagery? Um, to uh, to that really where you do disassociate from your physical body and you do realize that you are more than that physical body, where I have felt as though that energy has interacted with other more like archetypal collective conscious entities. Like I felt as though I went and I don't want to say like visited the Akashic Records like it's some physical library, but felt as though I got to this space where all of encoded information was there and I was able to kind of go through it and have access to that information as I wanted. So like that was just that wasn't a funny looking bald guy walking through that. That was more just my eternal energy that was able to go there. So yeah,
And
it's and it's hard to put all this stuff into terms like without sounding crazy, really. But yeah,
for sure. And when you went to that space of, say, the Akashic Records type environment, were you able to bring anything back with you? Or were just like insights, or do you kind of like not remember everything that you've experienced while being there?
the take home from that, the I guess the funny or comical interaction with that was I remembered kind of being presented this space and being in awe, kind of being like, oh my God, like how am I having access to this? And it wasn't like there was a gatekeeper there that was preventing me from coming in. It was more like there was this entity there that was welcoming. And when I was kind of like, well, how do I even begin? How do I even explore this? They kind of like chuckle and was just like you helped create this. Like you're part of the source of this, and it kind of really made me feel again that sense of one in being. And that's also a very common feeling, which goes into all of what we've been saying is you really do come out of these experiences like you are one with everybody, one with source, like we've been saying. But yeah, that was the take home from there. What I would like, and I kind of like what I like to figure out how who built the pyramids and like what about aliens? Like, did I find any of that type of no, but that's where the I think the DMT extended state is going to be an important part of it because you're as soon as you're there, you're taken back right away. And the beauty of the 6, 7, 8 minute session is also, one of its limitations. But yeah, there's been a lot of weird separations of who I physically am now. But it adds to the layer of fun, like we talked about, going through this life, like playing it like a game, knowing that uh, there is more to it, and it does give you some levity to go through it. Yeah, that you don't have to be so serious about everything. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a powerful experience. And how do you? The cool part of going through all this too is once you've experienced that, like you can't unsee it. So when I'm not on DMT, when I'm in my normal walking state, I'm still quite aware of the magic that's around me. I'm aware of that all this vibrational energy that's encoded with information is still swirling around me. And it's just a DMT blast away, but probably more importantly, it's more just a quiet your mind, shut your eyes, sit down in a quiet space, and that information's there. It's like it's always there, and that's the power of having these experiences too, is that you know that the power is always accessible because you can tap it into your from your within your core, but then it's also you're part of that same universal source too, and you just mend with it,
Yeah. Amazing. It
and that's
seems
how you
like it,
become limitless,
yeah, it seems
right?
like it
Like.
just widens your perspective so much further beyond what this human life could be when you're traveling across the galaxies and into different dimensions and meeting beings that are not from here, but are from here, maybe just living in it's just like a shift over parallel reality. It is, it blows my mind to think how vast all of it is. And how do we how do you reconcile seeing all this stuff and then coming back here? You just walk around with a smile on your face and
Hmm.
be like, it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yep. Enjoy your wife, enjoy your kid, write books, be happy. And yeah, it's very powerful. And to the person who's a nihilist or maybe someone that doesn't believe in any of this highest stuff, maybe we're both wrong. And again, that's a possibility. But the beauty of this information, what we're talking about, is it allows this reality, whatever it may be that much more enjoyable to live in, to have that much less physical stress, to have that much more meaningful relationships, um, to have that much more of a purpose in life. So it's like, whatever. Am I open to the fact that maybe my theory about DMT realm and entities are wrong? Maybe my thought about consciousness and love and gratitude being the next step in human evolution, maybe that's wrong. Maybe it is. But it allows me to live a more happy, content, blissful life, and it allows the people around me to then absorb that and then pass that on. It allows me to not, like most people, be pissed off every day at their job, at their spouses, have road rage, come home and yell at the TV, get mad at the news. Like it's just so many people are pissed off and I used to be that guy, and it drove me literally to the brink of killing myself. Where whatever. Maybe I'm delusional and maybe I'm completely off on this. But I don't think so because so many other people have come to the same conclusion that don't use drugs at all or that haven't had any of the same shit happen. And they're like, no, love and gratitude and connection is it. Um, because it's a great way to live life where I'm not lying when I said, for 2.5, 3 years, I've just had an amazing, blissful life where every day I'm excited to experience the day. Every night when I go to bed, I have prayers of gratitude and contentment and truly tears in my eyes of just how thankful I am to be here. And man, I wouldn't trade that for the six-figure income or the fancy houses or the multiple vacations a year. Because when I had all of that, I was going to bed fucking crying tears of sadness and loneliness and depression and what am I doing wrong? Where now I don't have any of those thoughts. And like even me just saying that, another flash of goosebumps where it's like, fuck, man, if I can induce my own goosebumps multiple times a day because I keep giving flashes that I'm on purpose and I'm on the right path, that's like I think about several of my friends right now that are working a 9 to 5 job, and yeah, they may have more material wealth and money, but they're miserable. They're not going to the gym after, they're not smoking a joint with their mom when they get off, they're not like all of the awesome stuff that I get to experience because I'm authentically being me those people aren't experiencing because they're not being their authentic selves. And if that could, if that's kind of the message that seems to be what we're all trying to say is find your own path and do it your authentic way. And then you smile like me, like you, and like several of your other guests. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
beautifully said, my brother. And we talked about at the beginning that there's many paths to this realization where we find love, gratitude, happiness, and DMT was obviously one major catalyst for you that blasted you, skyrocketing towards this place. But then also you mentioned that you went to the Monroe Institute. That's something that I've been really wanting to learn more about because ever since I heard about I think there was a CIA declassified document that came out. It's called the Gateway Process, and I was like, man, this sounds so cool. But is it a honeypot for the CIA to develop like like these killers, these
Yep.
MK Ultra killers? So yeah, tell us about your experience going to the Monroe Institute in Virginia, and what the Monroe method is exactly.
So I was interested in it for the same kind of reasons you were. So you read the CIA documents and all the remote viewing stuff, and so a couple things. It is the most beautiful campus, amazing program. It's worth every penny that you could possibly spend, and it really does profoundly change your life. It can be a transformational experience. That being said, it really just gets you connected to who you truly are at your source. So how the Monroe Institute came about was the founder, Robert Monroe, was a wealthy and well-to-do radio guy. So he owned a bunch of AM and FM radio stations, and everything was going good until he had his first out-of-body experience. And he remembered being in bed, rising out of his bed, and actually bumping against the ceiling and looking down and seeing a man laying in bed with his wife and kind of getting pissed, being like, who the hell is this man in bed with my wife? And then him realizing, oh shit, that's me. So it freaked him out, couldn't really explain it. And this happened multiple times, I guess, over the course of like the following months or year. And he had the resources to then now dedicate like what is happening. Like clearly there's something pretty profound that's going on. And he was trying to understand what vibrational wavelengths in your brain correlate with different states of consciousness. So whether you're in a deep sleep state, whether you're highly excited, whether you're in an energetic state where you can interact with ghosts or things like that, or whether you can actually get to a point where you can remote view and astral project. And he did find a correlation that once you get, and it's similar to what Dispenza was saying, once you get the brain and heart to get being coherent, and once you're able to control how those vibrate and interact with one another, you really can get to different levels of bliss and elated states. The My understanding is the brain can only pick up, I think, under like 40 hertz, or it can't pick up anything under 40 hertz or 20 hertz or something like that. But a lot of these wavelengths are under that. So what he's found is that he does hemisphere synchronization of the brain. So you wear headphones and you have different frequencies in each ear. So one ear would have 100, the other one would have 108. So your brain is registering that 8 hertz frequency difference. And those are the states that you can push to get your body to go to these different levels. So really the program is getting comfortable having your body feel like what it actually feels like to be in these different states with the headphones on. And that was one of my biggest questions. Like, will I know when I'm in focus 10 or I'm in focus 12? What's the difference between focus 12 and 21? Do you really feel love in focus 18? And yes, like the answer is after experiencing a week of this, each one of those focus levels, because they make your body vibrate and make your brain vibrate at a different frequency, make you receptive to different levels of information. Um, so that's kind of what what they're focusing on. Now, what you do with that information, whether you're using it to become a spy and to find out where the Russian sub is, or whether you're using it to find kidnapped kids, or whether you're using it just to talk to your dead grandmother, um, they kind of have programs that direct all of those types of things. But the real sum of the story, and that's why I come up with all these different similarities to DMT or to deep meditation, is it's all about knowing yourself, understanding the connection between your mind and body, understanding how the physiology of it works, knowing that there is a difference between your physical body and your energetic body and your spiritual body, and learning how to manipulate those. And um, I came away there just so impressed with how they present the program and really how it works. And then probably the biggest take home, which I wasn't expecting. And if anybody is interested, I mentioned about that paper that I wrote. I'd be more than happy to share it if anybody wants to read it. But maybe big picture and why we're talking about all this. The group mentality or the group power that came out of that was something that I was not expecting. So I was one out of 25 participants, and it's a really intimate, session where you're doing 8 to 10 hours a day. Then you're doing these debriefs, and really people are opening up themselves. I was not prepared for how powerful that experience of sharing their energy and having them receive mine was going to be for my own personal transformation. And it goes to the point of how important it is to share this message that we're sharing with society and with our neighbors, because I know now that I made a group of friends for life of these 25 amazingly powerful people. And as much as I'd like to think we were all like these spiritual, energetic rock stars, and I think we were, there were some amazing powers there. But again, we're all that beautifully powerful source of God. We all can do that. I feel like pick any random group of 25 people and put them in that setting, and the cohesiveness and the power of that group coming out of it is enough to change the world. And keep doing that at a grander scale. And it's not like, and I say this in the paper, it's not like everybody has to go to Monroe or everybody has to find Jesus or to do DMT. It's just everybody's got to understand their own true power, and that there's a connection there that will make life better. So, kind of a a weird way of answering what Monroe Institute was, but in essence, yeah, they use binaural beats in different frequencies in each ear to elicit different energetic responses in your body, and yeah, it works. And another point with that is you're forced to practice and take time for yourself. And that's an important part of it too. Like, could you just listen to one focus level, plug it in, and are you going to have this, response where you're going to leave your body? Probably not, because you're not trained and you're not practiced and you're not in the right space to do that. If you're doing it on day 4 of your meditation and you're truly giving the respect to why you're there and you've given it the time that it needs, then you will experience that. But like anything, there's no magic pill to it. You've got to give it the time that it needs.
Yeah, it's understanding a process and practicing it. Obviously, it's not just gonna, you don't just show up and be like, okay, I'm psychic now. But
No,
we
but that,
we we all have the ability. It's a technology, right? So we have to understand how the code works.
and everybody does have their own, and that's a good point. Everybody does have their own superpowers, so to speak. So not everybody's going to be able to remote view, or not everybody's going to be able to talk to angels, or not everybody's going to be able to whatever. But we all will have our own unique power, and that's what we'll get pulled out of doing a session like that. That's what we'll get pulled out of a DMT session as well as a gateway experience, is that you kind of you see how your own body vibrates and what its own power is. And then you can use your tool for the greatest good, including not self-destruction. Like first and foremost, not to self-destruct. And then from there, all the other creative stuff is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, definitely. And tell us a little bit about what the CIA found fascinating about this place and, what they actually developed. They came up with an entire document about their use of this material.
So I was very, very fortunate to have a like 3.5 hour personal conversation with Joe McGonigal. So he's like the main
Mhm.
guy, right? So
Yeah, he did a podcast with Sean Ryan
Sean
recently, I think.
Ryan, yeah.
Yeah.
So I sat that close to him, literally
Wow.
5 feet from me as he was telling me his story. So just somebody that, and to put it in perspective, he's worked for 5 different presidents. He's, has all of these major accomplishments under his belt. And just a couple of things that kind of separate his story and things that like I'm talking about. Um, I know what I experienced, and I'm not asking anybody to believe me. I try to share my story so that way people can get benefit from it. But what they're doing in the stories that they've used about like remote viewing and things are they're saying, hey, this is over there, or these blue sneakers and this red backpacker in the shed, and then the little kids up the mountain, and there he is. Or in that case where they found like that, the hunt for Red October, where they were like, no, listen, there's this huge nuclear sub. It's in this plant. It's got forward-facing guns. Like he described all of these things. Those can all be proven to be factually true. And that's why the CIA kept pumping tens and tens of millions of dollars into these programs because they just kept coming out with evidence that was just like, how are you possibly doing that? And he told some personal stories where, like, actually, I don't know, like, I don't feel like I shouldn't share some because some of it was like hardcore, like behind Pentagon doors type shit,
Mhm.
where, he had to prove to people like they were like, who's the rat? Like if you don't tell us where you're getting your information, like we're gonna take you out, we're gonna take out like whatever. And then he had to use his own abilities to be like, all right, well then you're cheating on this person and that whatever. And like so he had to like pull up like dirt on people to be like, listen, I know shit that only you would know, and this is how I know it because of this technology. And that's where they became believers really quick because he wasn't doing it for fame. If anything, it ruined a lot of aspects of his life, and he's like one of the only survivors in that program because of the stress. Like they all died in their 30s and 40s because of like heart attacks and stress and shit. Um, but in essence, they were able to train their mind to leave their body, so to speak. And then there's this whole kind of how does it work? And you try to describe like quantum physics and time loops and how time can be malleable, and are they really just confirming information from the future but bringing it to the past? Like, and he doesn't even quite know how he does it all. But it does factually pan out where your mind and body can go to different locations. Excuse me, your mind can go to different locations than your body and bring back actual factual information. Not like Adam saying, "Hey, I talked to this purple dress lady." It's like, no, listen, there's a file in that drawer that says this, and it's actually there. Um, the From my reading of the CIA paperwork was that one, they confirmed that it worked. They analyzed all of the technology and like the hemisync like programs, and that worked, and that they even used that the term non-corporeal beings, like basically be prepared to have interactions with non-corporeal beings. So like what that's in a government document saying that they're dealing with entities that aren't human and physical. So like just to have that explicit in the paper is like, oh shit. Um, but one of the take-home messages too is that once these people went through these programs and they were able to kind of see God, so to speak, or able to tap into their higher being or to remove the veil or whatever analogy you want to use, um, they all came back with this sense of oneness and this sense of love and gratitude, like we're all saying that we got. So because of that, my understanding was the program kind of fizzled out because the best and brightest that were the best at doing this wanted nothing to do with harming people, wanted nothing to do with nuclear shit, wanted nothing to do with other than, listen, I need to share this information for good, not to work as a government employee. And so that, those well, three takeaways. One, the technology actually worked. Two, that people were on record interacting with non-corporeal, so whether that's alien, whether that's spirits, whether that's ghost, that they're interacting with it. And then three, the take home is once you've experienced that there's no way that you're going to be the same person, that you will come back with a sense of connection to your fellow human. So, and those three reasons were also why I wanted to go there and experience it. And I feel as though, I confirmed all of it. That yes, the technology does work. That yes, you can interact with other beings and entities, and different from the DMT space entities. But I did have some really cool, profound interactions. Um, and then that three, that the overall message that got taken out of it was one of love, gratitude, and connection. So, it seems to be now confirmed for 30, 40 years that this is all happening.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world why the military doesn't want people going down this route because it's the ultimate love pill, right? Like they don't want
Well,
that.
and another thing that he said, which is why it's kind of like they've been kind of like blackballing the program, and they've actually had like covert programs to kind of uh, discredit the program. Is that so? He's sitting there saying that through all of this experience, and that there's some really, and he's mentioned there's like a handful of people that can do it just as good as him, and really are really really good at it. That there's absolutely no way to defend against it. And that's the scariest part. So he goes, they've done, where they've experienced where they've got 10 feet of concrete wall, that they've got, feet of lead, like radiation blocking stuff, so that there's no way that they've separated people from across the continent, and that that information can be conveyed that defies space and time. And so that's kind of the scary part of it is governments almost want to like they want to figure it out, but they also don't want to make it like put too many eyes on it because there's no way of defending it. And that was the kind of like oof.
Yeah, they don't want other
Uh,
countries getting access to this technology, right? Because then yeah, it's their own safety or whatever.
well, and that's I guess like China and Russia would be the two like main opponents or whatever. And yeah, that's so they're actively putting a lot of money into these programs. And again, because it works. Now, I want to use it to go see spirits in my dead grandfather and whatever to interact with aliens, but there are whole groups of people that are using it to try to harm people, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
but
for sure. One of the
it's
other, sorry, one of the other takeaways I think is they published that they understood the nature of the holographic universe and how everything is a simulation or a projection coming from somewhere.
in a government paper. That
Yeah.
that's the kind of weird part where they're kind of saying this woo-woo like out there esoteric shit, but it's Yeah, they're finding it. And the more and more you go down these rabbit holes of secret agencies and what they're finding, the more you realize there's a lot more that's not being shown, and there's a lot of like just a lot of not I don't want to go down like the Illuminati and like secret society type shit, but I've been reading a lot of like Manly Hall's work. So I just read The Secret Teachings of All Ages. So he goes over just like really just matter of fact breakdown of a lot of these esoteric teachings and groups and information and stuff. And um, some of these really eclectic groups of like NASA scientists, and there's a lot of weird shit going on. Like a lot of weird rituals and alien type stuff, and even with this UFO disclosure, and maybe it kind of ties into what we were saying, how there is this consciousness shift happening. Like there is this pivotal point, and I think whether it be like the UFO disclosure, whether it be the psychedelic renaissance, people that are religious know that there's kind of like this like Armageddon kind of second coming happening, where there is this, I think this buildup of energy that right, it's exciting. It's exciting time to be around, and
Yeah,
like shit's
it's
gonna hit the
funny.
fan either way.
You know what I
Yeah.
think about? So we both follow Sam Tripoli. He's a comedian. He's got a tinfoil hot podcast, and he always talks about we're literally living in every single movie that's ever been created, happening all at once. So literally everything that you see in the movies is real on some level because it's been inspired by reality.
Yeah, and I hate this. My day-to-day walking life confirms that. But again, because of that, then walk around skipping and whistling and spinning around. Don't walk around with your head down, kicking rocks, being like, "Oh, this sucks." No,
Yeah.
man. Like,
It's a waste of time
advance. Yeah.
to be upset about anything, right? Whether you're happy in life or sad in life, you can have the same exact experiences, but it's a choice.
Well,
And at the end of the day, you're not going to regret being happy, even if you're hypnotizing yourself or you're making it all up in your mind. Like you're literally creating your reality by choosing those thoughts.
and this is a practical kind of point that we can make as we talked about, your family and you interacting with your um, new child and wife, and how part of my story is how I had really three long-term relationships that ended horribly, and it sucks because of how bad I was treating myself, which then conveyed to treating them. But part of all of this lesson too is that you get to love and appreciate your partner that much greater and that much more fully and wholly, where the things that used to piss me off with the other women I was with, now I can appreciate this woman's quirks. Like there's nothing. So I've been with Alicia, so she's the one that wrote the chapter in the book as well.
Mhm.
And um, the ability to enjoy somebody's personality and quirks and uniqueness is it's awesome. Like to truly be in a loving relationship that's unconditional is something that I haven't experienced up and until my kind of clarity with DMT and this kind of whole removing the veil thing. But that that I don't know why I wanted to just throw that in there, but just the fact that you can really appreciate your partner. Um, don't have to lose the amazing relationships that I once had because of not seeing the person for who they really are. And once you're able to do that, it's just again, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is finding a partner where you can unconditionally love is also reconciling all the past mistakes, all the past hurt, and forgiving. And, if there's any reason to apologize, just doing it on an energetic level, it kind of clears the slate for you to then have a really open, amazing container that you can support that unconditional love, right? Because if we're carrying our past traumas and pains and all this kind of stuff, it's almost impossible for us to experience that with someone new.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And, part of learning how to know yourself too. I know this was an important part of my growth, being a, quote unquote, like alpha male that was always trying to be this macho guy, to embrace the feminine aspects of myself. And then with the other women, that I was with was a really important part of it too, because uh, the wholeness that comes from that, the energetic build that comes from that was something that I'm so happy I've incorporated into my life because I can appreciate my emotional attributes and my feminine attributes that much more, but I don't try to change them in Alicia or my mom or my nieces. And it's just again, you're able to take a step back and look at everybody from from the through almost like the lens of God, and not to bring it to a religious thing, because I'm not, I'm not religious and I'm not of any one sect, but to really view the people that you're talking through that lens is it's beautiful because you really get to feel like that. Now I think about like the women that left me, and rightly so. How many times I yelled at them, how many I raised my voice or puffed up my chest or pointed my finger or swore or had the veins in my temples bulging out, where it's like, oh my God, how why would you ever try to convey information like that, as opposed to the loving soft eyes that I give to Leisha and now where I'm always just trying to be calm and convey what I want to convey. Uh, I'll never go back to that way of living. And it's just so, again, it comes back to easy and physiologically comforting. But that's what I think a lot of people are uncomfortable in their own body, in their own skin, in their own relationships. And it's just a matter of that perspective shift where all those little annoyances that you used to think can actually now be beautiful little quirks that make you love that person even more. And you even turn that on yourself, so all those little quirks that a lot of people beat themselves up about, those quirks can become your greatest attributes. And
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
reconciling that shadow. The more we try to suppress that shadow part of us, it's like a buoy. You try to push it underwater, eventually it's going to pop, right? So facing it, appreciating it, loving it, and understanding that pain of the shadow that you're carrying is going to propel you, but transmuting that energy because it's there and it has to be dealt with. It's when we try to suppress anything, that's when the bad stuff starts happening and infects us. But when we're able to face it with love and integrity and authenticity, then yeah,
and
magical
you
things
use it
can
as a
start
badge
happening.
of honor.
Hmm.
Me and Alicia use the analogy all the time of having like a Girl Scout badge or a Boy Scout badges where, you have this sash with all these badass experiences that you've been through. And unfortunately, the most difficult badges to earn are just that, the most difficult badges to earn. But now I know with all the shit that I've walked through that like I am one tough mofo. Like I've earned some crazy life badges, and because of that, I have the confidence to walk through life now with a certain sense of knowing and accomplishment, and humility. And it's tough to kind of get those badges, but appreciate for the people that have, and we've all walked, down these dark paths, but you can use that for your advantage. You can use that as strength. You can use it to show off. You can not to show off, but to show that you can survive. And I look forward now to gaining those badges, knowing that any adversity will lead to some sort of good or learning opportunity, and you see where it all goes.
Yeah,
But
no
keep earning the
doubt.
badges.
For sure. I love that. I love that analogy. I'm going to start using that. It's really embracing every moment that's happened to you in the past and all the pain, all the pleasure, all of it, and bringing it to the now because that's who you are. And this the beautiful smile that you have that we all shine is made up of all the experiences in the collective that we've had. Um, and yeah, I definitely want to share that write-up that you did after the Monroe Institute. Really beautiful share on your end. Can you tell us a little bit about just kind of summarizing what your major realizations were, after having that experience?
So when I was there, I mentioned I was one of 25 people, and there was a large range of age, of different jobs, from professional athletes, doctors, lawyers, and there were several of them that had never heard of DMT, um, and there were several of them that actually had tried DMT. So there was a whole range of kind of interactions and discussions that I had that week. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of share through it all was that my path isn't necessarily going to be the same that everybody needs to take, and that these other people's paths were way different from mine, but yet here we are at the end of the week, kind of with these same realizations. And it was just, it was a quick, easy paper to want to say drugs aren't the path, Monroe isn't the path. It's this internal knowing of yourself, which is the path. So that really was the take-home message. And then there were ten kind of big bullet points that I felt as though I came away from, that both DMT got me to that realization, but as well as the gateway experience. I have the paper here. Not that I'm gonna read them all, but I guess
Mhm.
it's easier to just because they're just important, really basic points.
Yeah.
The first one, you're more than your physical body. So that's actually their slogan. But once you realize that you are more than your physical body, it just opens up a whole new realm of expansion and possibilities and sense of limitlessness. So, we know that we're not refined to that. But I also want to put an asterisk to that. In a lot of the meditations we would go into stating that we're more than our physical body. But I was always add, but man, this physical body is beautiful. Like, man, this physical body is awesome because that's an important part where it's not, let's not transcend this meat suit or get out of the 3D to the 5D. It really is, the physical body is also really beautiful. But you need to know that you are more than that. Um, the concept that everything is energy or vibration. Again, I pretty basic, and I know you definitely agree with that. Um, the next concept of self-knowledge leads to self-love, which will then lead to love of your neighbor. Again, we've been talking about all of those aspects, and how important that is. The next one, alien, ghosts, DMT entities, and non-corporeal energy forms are real. And I have the non-corporeal energy forms in quotations because that's actually the term that was in the government CIA paper. And that realization that those other beings and entities are out there. I think once you have that, or if you experienced it, or you've been abducted by aliens, or interact with DMT entities and things like that, it humbles you when you know that you're not it, that there are greater beings and forces. So that realization, I think one is just, put it in your pipe and smoke it how you may. Um, the other one, we are all one, and we're all facets of source. So again, we've been talking about that throughout the entire podcast. The concept, the next one, that we're never alone. And this is with people around you, physically, if you need a hug or if you need a shoulder to lean on or if you need a sandwich or a bed to lay in, for most people, unless you've burned every bridge, just that concept of like I would truly not be on this planet if I didn't have the love and support of my family and friends and strangers. Honestly, when I was walking on the streets, on the train tracks at 2 in the morning, some of my most profound conversations were with strangers that didn't know me but just gave me love. So the idea of that you're never alone, that there's people and humans to support you, but then also the spiritual and energetic forces and angels and your guides that are around you. People may not know necessarily how to tap into them, but they're there, and that's a really powerful force, and to know that you're never alone. Um, Next concept that it's natural, innate, and endogenous. So again, that this all comes from within. That whether it be truly DMT is endogenous or just that sense of self and love and gratitude is going to come from within. It's not from making money. It's not from a job. It's not from having a good looking spouse or having a fancy car. All of these beautiful vibrations of energy do come from within. Another concept that the other worldly realms and alternative dimensions are real and ever present. So again, kind of goes in with that. There's other entities around. Once you realize that there's more than just Earth in this 3D dimension, it opens up more possibilities of being, limitless. And then the last two, repair of trauma, processing loss, and putting parent fear, into perspective. I thought both the Monroe Institute and doing DMT really puts people's trauma and their past into perspective. And there were people there that had buried their children. There were people there that were raped. There were people there that were abused. I mean, there were some hardcore stories that were being shared. And uh, how do you put all that into perspective in a way where you can use it to your advantage? And again, a topic that we've been discussing throughout the podcast. It's just really important to be able to put the past in perspective where it doesn't uh, negate the future or it doesn't completely dictate how you live in the future. And then really the big one, which is how we're ending, I think our discussion here, which is the next progressive step in human evolution. So now what do we do with this information? What do we do with your life calling and change? What do we do with Amish now getting out of making, money in the way that he was doing selling ads to now making documentaries about, you know, ancient medicine and things like that. How do I go from making a shit ton of money in real estate or selling marble and granite to now sharing the message of love and light and connection? And that's what I think the purpose of your podcast, me writing books and me writing that paper and everything is now what's the next step of human evolution? How do you raise your beautiful son in a world that isn't based about hatred and divisive speech and bringing the person down and ruining our planet and crush like it's just we can talk for another hour and a half about all the ways that humans are ugly and nasty to ourselves and to the planet. But we have, just like we have the power to change ourselves, just like I had the power to change myself from being dark, negative, suicidal to being what I am now. I think as individuals, we can change this, human as a group, and we can do that by changing our consciousness and having it be a consciousness of what we've just been talking about. limitless love, uh, innate gratitude, unlimited power, connection to source. There we are.
Extraordinary.
It's
Thank you, man. You're a beautiful soul, and it was such a pleasure getting to know you and hearing your story, and and reading your papers and reading your book and everything. It's just really it's been on my mind the last couple of weeks ever since I kind of dove deep into this work that you're doing. And yeah, it's like just your stuff alone has been giving me perspective changes. And I just came back from Peru a couple, last month and had amazing mind-altering experiences and all that. And yours, it just, your stuff has even expanded it further. So I think every person comes into your life exactly at the right time, with the right information. So just to end the podcast, why do you think you came here to planet Earth, and what do you want to experience now going forward?
so I guess it would be to experience being a human in its absolute fullest. From the pinnacle highs to the devastating lows, I feel as though I've been able to truly experience a very full life. We're at 44 years of age. I feel like I could pass right now and I'd be so blessed and happy. But I feel like if I could, if as a soul I could pick a body or a life to come into, I would pick this very one with all the bullshit and all the drama because it's so colorful and so beautiful, and it's a story that I would want to read. And so I think I'm here to really experience what it's like to be a really fun human. And now like what the purpose is, uh, and I've trying to learn to take out the phrase "it's corny to say" or "it's corny" or "I feel it's corny" because it kind of takes away from the power of it. But I really honed this at the Monroe Institute where we kind of had to what's our purpose, and it's not corny. My purpose is to spread love. How that happens, when that happens, or whatever, whether it be to the suicidal veteran who's a guy who's been beating himself up with alcohol, or the beautiful young woman who needs to be told she's beautiful, or the old guy who's at the end of life who just needs somebody to sit there and hold his hand, to whatever it may be. Um, I know I was somebody that was so dark and ruined love and ruined light and was just nasty. And now I want to try to make as good on that as possible, and I want to spread as much love and light, and really just try to help people see their own beauty, not the beauty that I think they should be or that whatever. Like it really is just here's the mirror to yourself, and look at how beautiful you really are. And if I could help people do that, then I'll know. That's what my purpose is. It wasn't the money, it wasn't the real estate success, it wasn't any of that shit. It's to help people find inner happiness and love.
The most simplest but the most beautiful way to live life, right? It's like
And at some
it
point get
doesn't
out of
have
my
to be
parents'
so
basement,
fucking
but
complicated.
no, really, it doesn't. It doesn't. And because everything else will fall into place. And it's the people, and tragically, you hear about, the famous person or the movie star or the music person that has everything on paper. They've got all the fame, all the money, everything. And they're the ones that are going to off themselves or OD on drugs because that that doesn't lead to happiness at all. It's
Yeah.
the person who's comfortable in their own skin, sitting on the coast with their back up against a tree, watching the sunset, who, can induce their own goosebumps. That's the success. And I think it's a matter of finding balance where, we have to live in this society. We have to play in this matrix, so to speak. We do have to deal with the stresses of life, and we do need to make money, and we do need to deal with assholes in society. There will be them. But it's a matter of finding a balance and not being pushed or skewed into too far of a direction. And if your body or life is giving you stress signals, listen to them. Take the time to listen to them and fix them. Otherwise, you'll self-destruct and you'll be no good to anybody.
Yeah, so true. And part of this game, right, is like having that thing to balance us out, like having to pay taxes and having to make money to afford to live and all this kind of stuff. It's just that's part of it. And I think the
Hmm.
the the lesson is how do you do that and still react and show up happy and show up like healthy and be nice to everybody and kind and loving to yourself. It's like, if we were given all the answers and all the money and all the freedom and all the love and all the lessons right away, what would be the fun in all of this? What would be the experience? What would be the lessons? I really don't see a point, right, of just having it all, until you kind of like understand the underlining meaning of life, whatever that is for you. And I think that, you saying that you wouldn't trade your life for anyone else's, I feel the same exact way. And I truly pray that everyone becomes the hero of their own story and finds that same mindset of like, man, my life is fucking incredible. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't trade that for anyone else's.
That, yeah, like that to me is the ultimate goal, is that everybody feels as though their soul is in the exact body that it should be. And again, I guess I got goosebumps again saying that because I
Me too.
really feel like that with me, man. Like I really feel like I don't want to be an eagle. I don't want to be Michael Jordan. I don't want to be a fucking dolphin. I don't want to be me in 100 years. I don't want to be a famous, Stephen King author. My soul is so happy being in me right now as Earth Adam 44, and that to me is the ultimate goal of all of this, of any psychedelic journey, of any spiritual retreat, of anything is, man, if your soul can be happy with where it is and it's not seeking to go elsewhere, then that's it. You're home. That's heaven on earth. That's the heaven within. That's utopia. That's nirvana. All of those terms. That's it. When your soul is happy in its own place, and its place is in you.
Yeah,
Fuck, that just sounded good, huh? That was good.
couldn't have said it any better, my friends.
Shit.
We will definitely end the podcast on that one. But how can we learn more about you, Adam?
So I'm on the social media that I use most is Instagram. The handle is Books by Adam Butler. My email is booksbyadambutler@gmail.com. So I welcome anybody to reach out if they feel as though I can, help in any way. And my book is available on Amazon as well as, where any books are sold. It does have an audio version as well as Kindle, and the audio version is read in my voice. So if you want to hear my nice New England accent, swear a lot, it is available. And I'm here. I'm in the middle of writing my next book, so that'll hopefully be out in the spring. I've got a couple other papers coming out. I've got a couple more podcasts that are lined up, and my plan is just to try to be in this space as long as I feel as though I can be helpful. And right now, the feedback has been really positive, so I'll keep sharing my message, and
Definitely.
I'll share yours because I like what you're doing too. So
I appreciate. Grateful to connect with you, and so happy that we could have this sacred conversation. I think it'll inspire many people. So yeah, wanna just thank you for being you, brother. It's a real pleasure.
thank you. Happy to be alive. I'm happy you're alive, and I'm happy we're here together. And I wish you and your beautiful family the best, really. Like I said, I hope I hope that little dude knows that he's already bringing light and laughter to smiles to people he doesn't even know by just sitting there getting a picture taken of him. And it's like it may the perfect way to end it. So this young man who's new to this planet, who doesn't even know how much power he has, is affecting that much vibrational energy where he's making people's lives and days better just by his cute little face. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, imagine that multiplied when he's older and wiser and can or anybody that can do that. And it's just that's the power we all have. So be that light for somebody else. And yeah, no, I look forward to seeing you flourish and grow, and him as well, and your wife and all of that good stuff.
Thank you, brother. You as well.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.